on, for old time's sake. Help me, little man.
No.
Help me.
No.
A little hand, just a little hand, please.
Fuck off, Hitler.
Jojo Rabbit is the latest film from one of the best filmmakers of the decade, Taika Waititi. You may know Taika from Thor Ragnarok, The Mandalorian, or my personal favourite, What We Do in the Shadows. He has always had a bit of a sarcastic approach to, well, basically his whole life, and Jojo Rabbit comes directly in line with this satirical style of comedy. I've seen Jojo Rabbit too many times at this point, and every time I've noticed something new, but the main theme that really makes this movie so good is that it tells you a story we've all heard, but through a much more unique medium: satire. History has made fun of World War II a lot, especially Adolf Hitler himself, with Chaplin's The Great Dictator, Kelly's Heroes, hell, even Kung Fury counts. But what is so unique about Jojo Rabbit is its ability to balance both a dramatic and thoughtful storyline on top of absurdist humour. And that's the genius of Jojo Rabbit. Storytelling through absurdity. While some people were quick to judge the film as making light of the atrocities committed by the Nazi Party, the movie is filled to the brim with the most absurd portrayal of Nazi Germany. The film showcases Adolf Hitler through the imagination of a 10-year-old boy who is flamboyant, eccentric, and a complete opposite to his real-life inspiration. But as the film progresses and Jojo learns more about the horrible ideals he's fighting for, his own perception of Hitler deteriorates. We see imaginary Hitler get more and more calm as time passes and less flamboyant. Nearer to the film as Jojo's compassion for Elsa grows, Hitler becomes more true to life as we see him shouting, appearing less frequently and verbally attacking the information that Jojo is learning. It's a metaphor for his own belief in his country. Hitler isn't just an imaginary friend, it's the embodiment of Jojo's morals. Essentially, a Nazi version of the devil on your shoulder. In the end, he quite literally throws his ideals out the window after realising that everything he knew about the Nazis was a lie. And this is the most absurd you can get. I mean, a 10-year-old boy telling Hitler to fuck off and then kicking him out of a window is nowhere even close to making light of how evil he really was. The film explores how cruel the Nazis were through the death of Jojo's mother, which is arguably the most hard-hitting scene in the entire film, on top of the creepiness of Stephen Merchant's Gestapo. Let's break these two things down. Jojo's mother is shown as a compassionate, struggling mother, both trying to take care of her Nazi-obsessed son while also rebelling against the cruel policies of Germany. Oh, and on top of that, she's doing one of the most dangerous things a German can do in the 40s. She's hiding a Jewish girl in her house. Not only do we see her try to maintain a happy face while around her son, we see the side of her where she is out there trying to make a difference by sharing revolutionary texts across town and secretly opposing the war. She does well at hiding her struggles in front of Jojo and Elsa, but we come close to seeing her lose the facade during the scene at the dinner table when she pretends to be Jojo's father.
Don't you ever talk to your goddamn mother like that!
While she saves it and goes back to putting a smile on her face, we know that she has a lot going on. One of the most obvious repetitions in the film, on top of the biggest foreshadowing of all, is when we see Jojo's mother's shoes constantly. There's a specific scene where the shot lingers on her feet and we don't understand the meaning of this until we see the same set of shoes hanging from a rope later in the film. It's gut-wrenching and amazing storytelling. The audience really get a punch to the stomach realising that those legs full of life are now pale and still. Jojo Rabbit's ability to balance this intricate, raw storytelling with absurdist satire is genius. Let's talk about one of the most stressful scenes in the film, the Gestapo search. When the Gestapo unexpectedly knock on Jojo's door and introduce themselves, we're put into one of the most uncomfortable situations you can find yourself, and that's an understatement. There are dozens of films with scenes like this, with the most notable one coming to mind being the opening of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds. However, as Stephen Merchant himself points out, the portrayal of the Gestapo in Jojo Rabbit is that they are quite ridiculous and it actually adds to their creepiness and references their origins. The Gestapo in real life were what most people call the secret police of Nazi Germany, and they would travel around the country in search of quote-unquote enemies of the state. In reality, the Gestapo were actually just German bureaucrats who were given a badge of authority and a task. They were often middle-class individuals with law degrees or doctorates. In fact, a lot of them were not even in the Nazi Party. The fact that they were usually these disgraced businessmen rather than actual Nazi figures makes them that much more appalling and disgusting for allowing the atrocities of the Holocaust to happen in return for keeping their middle-class jobs and roles in society. Merchant says that he wanted to show the Gestapo as both buffoonish and intimidating in his performance, and I think it works well as a way of making fun of the Gestapo. It shows them as immature bureaucrats who've just got lucky and got a badge of power for no reason, despite being, as he calls, weak, pathetic people. Taika points out that the reason behind the Heil Hitler gag whenever someone enters the room is not only to add that satirical style to the scene, but also as a way to mock the ridiculous policies of the Nazis. In Germany at the time, Heil Hitler was a genuine greeting that people used to say hello to one another. In fact, it was mandatory for all citizens to do so, and the overuse of the greeting in the film is a funny and clever way to point out just how inefficient, stupid, and really ridiculous the Nazis actually were. It's barely even a gag, it's culturally accurate. To put that even further, the film literally starts with Jojo practicing his hail and then running around the town screaming and hailing Hitler over people. It's a perfect film opening, as it's both absurd in its method of showing a boy running around hailing at the top of his voice, but it's also an amazing introduction to Jojo, and right off the bat it gives us this impression that this boy is not only obsessed with Hitler, but he's willing to show it to the world. Just from a simple gag, we learn a ton about Jojo straight from the offset, and we see tropes like this and other jokes contribute all the more to storytelling regardless of how absurd they are. And that is the continued genius of Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit.
Shit.
Thanks for watching.